Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Brian Sews, a show where I talk about what I've been sewing this week. Except this week, I haven't been sewing because I've been out of town. Um, I just got back from Boston. Before Boston, I was in Brazil. Um, a lot of flying around. I think I took probably 14 separate flights in the last couple weeks, which makes me not want to get in an airplane for a very long time. Did a lot of sewing before I went to Brazil. Made a lot of T-shirts, and I was working on those linen pants that we talked about. I don't have them to show you because they're actually in the wash. So I did learn something about linen. A friend had told me to reinforce the crotch seams and the inside leg seam, and I did do that. The bias on linen, 100% linen, the bias is very unstable. It's very stretchy, and it stretches out and doesn't really want to spring back at all. And I'm sure if I hadn't have reinforced those seams, this seam here and the one, the center back seam and all the way to the front, I don't know what you would have had. My crotch would have been down to my knees by the time I was done wearing them. I learned something about linen too. This is the first time I've really sewn with linen. I sewed two separate. I remember. Here's some scraps. I had this heavier weight linen, and then I had this lighter one. I made pants with both of them. Linen's a really strong fiber, and its strength is probably its weakness also. I noticed when I was sewing with this is a really lightweight. It's not sheer, but when I hold it up to the light, I can definitely see through it. As I was turning the curve for the fly opening here, I noticed that the feed dogs actually ripped a hole right in the linen. I've never had that happen with anything else before, and it's like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then I noticed and I actually didn't even wear these, the lighter weight pants in Brazil. I never ended up wearing them. The heavier weight ones, I wore these quite a bit every time we went out and we were going to, we ended up going up and taking a river cruise on the Rio Negro, which is up in the Amazon, and you're on this little cruise. We'll call it a cruise. It was like a little boat. There was 10 people on it. But you get off the boat and you go walking through the Amazon. You look for animals and trees and all that kind of good stuff. And there's could be mosquitoes. So they always tell you to be prepared. And I don't really like wearing a lot of mosquito repellent because I think it's kind of poisonous. So I was always prepared by being very bundled up and covered up, which, you're out in the middle of the Amazon. It's pretty hot and humid and sweaty, and linen did well that way. I was happy with the linen. It performed well, and because I had reinforced the right seams, it didn't, they weren't falling off of me while I was wearing them. But I noticed, because I wore these blue ones, that on the tops of the legs here, it started to get kind of abraded. This is where you get a lot of wear here on the top of your pants, top of your leg here. And I was noticing by the end of the trip that I was like, wow, these are getting kind of worn out already. And so now I understand why. I used to think it was offensive when people would mix, or when manufacturers would mix linen with polyester. I used to think, why would you take such a great natural fiber and mix it with plastic? Well, now I'm starting to understand why you do that, because the polyester actually has a lot of really good properties that you would mix with the linen and probably prevent a lot of these problems that I was noticing. I also see why you don't make, you never see linen jeans, like tight linen jeans. Linen has absolutely no give. I mean, on the grain, there's no stretching of the fiber at all. So if you've made jeans that are, close fitting jeans, they're going to be tight, and they're not going to loosen up with wear. They are, tight jeans. So linen, I liked it. I'll be trying it with polyester next to see how that works. I see why they do make a lot of flowy, loose-fitting linen garments, because that seems to work better with the fiber itself, with the fact that it doesn't stretch. But yeah, see, the bias is very, very weak. What else? People say that the Brazilians are a beautiful, beautiful people, and I have to agree. Brazil is quite a melting pot of colors and textures and cultures, and not really cultures, but it was amazing. You'd look out in the crowd and you saw every shade of person possible, and it was nice to see a society where that was just everyone was completely everyone was different colors, but everyone was the same color, and it was really nice. Um, Brazilians are a little bit, I almost want to say, kind of stuck in maybe the 80s a little bit with their fashion wear. There was a lot of midriff tops on men, which I was finding that was really kind of interesting. I was like, wow, there's a guy with a midriff sweatshirt over there, swinging down the street. Um, Brazilians are not as well, they might be body conscious, but just because you're carrying an extra few pounds, or you have love handles, or a few little rolls on your tummy, doesn't mean that you don't wear the midriff anyway. They also wear extremely tight jeans there. Wow, tight jeans. Everyone's got super tight jeans on across the board. They're also doing this thing still where, and I think that we were maybe, I don't know if it ever really caught on in the U.S. Jeans being overly embellished, like just too much hardware, too much pockets, too much top stitching, just too much. And I see this sometimes when I go to Europe. I see these kind of jeans walking around where you're just like, wow, there is a lot of junk on your jeans. I think we maybe did a little, in the U.S. and maybe we haven't got there yet. I have a feeling we're not going to, though. In the U.S., we did a lot of distressing and, stonewashing and bleaching, and, we had a lot of that stuff going on. We never really got into the super high embellishment, and I think that we probably won't, because I think the trend in jeans in the U.S. right now is going more towards plain types of jeans, in fashionable places. Maybe not in Mobile, Alabama, but in places where, where they actually wear fashionable jeans, you'll see a lot more standard dark blue, no bleaching, no stonewashing, no anything type of jeans, and I have to kind of agree that I like that better. So super tight jeans, midriff tops. Everything was off the shoulders and plunging necklines in Brazil. Wow, lots of that going on at any age. It didn't matter how old or young you were. Everyone was showing off some skin. So that was cool. Also just got back from Boston. Boston was very, very cute. I loved it. I had such a great time while I was there. It snowed. I went from Brazil where it was spring, 85 degrees and 95% humidity. Came back to Mobile for a day, flew up to Boston. The first day I was there, it was 70. By the time I left, the day I left, it snowed 6 inches. So I went from these two extremes. My poor skin is so confused right now. It's like very dry. But Boston was cute. I was a little bit disappointed. The thrift shopping is kind of, there's not very much thrift shopping there. I really need to look around more next time I'm there to start to find, and maybe someone can let me know of some really awesome thrift shops. I found a few, but not as many as I would expect there, since there's so many people. And fabric stores. Where are the fabric stores in the Boston area? Like, I'm looking, there wasn't even like Joann's and Hancock's everywhere, and everyone knows how much I love them, which is not really the truth, but they are good basic, when you just need the basics, they have it, and Boston area didn't really have a lot of Joann's and Hancock's. So I was a little bit disappointed with the fabric store selection. I'm sure if I dig around further, I'll find, I'll find those little hole-in-the-wall places and whatnot. So maybe someone can give me some ideas of places I should check out next time I'm there. This week, you can see the sewing room behind me is an absolute disaster. Maybe it always looks like that to you, but to me it looks really, it looks like a disaster. So this week I'm going to kind of try to get this cleaned up. I don't really have any sewing projects right on the agenda, like stuff that I'm like, oh, I need to get that done. So I'm not really sure what I'll be sewing and telling you about next week. I do have some news I will be telling you about, but it's a little bit early. So I guess that's it for this week of Brian's Sewing Room. I hope everyone's doing well with their sewing room. I'll talk to you guys later.